Hello, my name is Samantha Lucas, and I'm going to share some of the interesting points of our analysis of the supply chain of rum. So let's get started. All right. Compared to the many other products, rum requires very few raw materials. To make rum, all you need is sugarcane, yeast, and water. With that in mind, the first stage of the rum supply chain is obtaining raw materials. Compared to other materials, sugarcane requires the longest lead time of 12 to 18 months. The variability in this lead time is caused by uncertainties such as weather and labor, among other factors. One of the more interesting parts of this supply chain of rum was the procurement of yeast. Most rum companies develop their own strain of yeast that best suits their needs. Since harvesting yeast from the natural environment is very difficult and costly, companies will grow their own yeast in labs, which allows them to control supply. From a competition standpoint, this also allows the rum producer to protect the yeast strain that is responsible for their rum's distinguishing taste. Once all of the raw materials have been obtained, the next stage in the supply chain is production. This is the stage where sugarcane is refined, meaning that the sugar crystals are separated from the molasses, which is the base ingredient of nearly all varieties of rum. Once the molasses is rendered, it is combined with the yeast and water to begin the fermentation process before eventually being distilled. Once the rum has been distilled, it then enters the aging warehouse stage, which is where the supply chain of rum differs greatly from most other products. This is the stage where the type of quality of rum is determined. There are primarily three types of rum. White rum is usually aged for between 3 to 12 months and is considered the lowest quality. Golden rums are typically aged between 12 to 3 years, creating more flavor and color. Finally, dark rums require at least 3 years of aging, which some are aged for 15 years or more. Longer aging leads to higher quality of rum that demands higher prices. The trade-off is these lead times require larger facilities and increased warehousing and inventory costs. The very long lead time in this stage also wreaks havoc on forecasting and response time, but we will get into that a little bit later. Once the perfect rum has been blended, the next stage is bottling and warehouse storage, awaiting transport to distributors worldwide. Recycling also plays an important part of the supply chain. First, glass or plastic rum bottles can and should be recycled. Although the producers don't get back the actual glass they produce, the promotion of recycling in general creates a market of recycled materials that can be used for future bottling. Also, the yeast that is used in the fermentation process can be separated from the product at the end of the cycle and can be reused for future batches of rum. Finally, the steam created during the production is captured and reused to water the sugarcane and clean the production facilities. In the figure that we are showing, we can see various stages of the rum supply chain that we've discussed, along with the transportation methods between each stage. As you can see, we use a variety of transportation methods from the storage warehouse to the distributors. Also, you can see the production and aging warehouse are at the same facility. The golden arrows represent the flow of materials and products, and the green arrows represent the flow of funds through the supply chain. Now that we've talked about some of the interesting aspects of each stage of the supply chain, we also came across some interesting information about locational needs. Since sugarcane and water are the most important ingredients of the rum production facilities are located in arid tropical environments that offer the best combination of weather and local water. During our research, we found that Puerto Rico offered some interesting opportunities. Puerto Rico is known as the rum capital of the world, with 70% of the world's consumption of rum coming from Puerto Rico, including 70% of the U.S. consumption. Overall, Puerto Rico produces about 35 million gallons of rum every year. The territory also places great importance on the quality of rum that produces within its borders. For instance, the Puerto Rico Industrial Development Company provides incentives for the sugarcane industry and excellence in rum craftsmanship. Puerto Rico also has some interesting political and economic conditions. A 2014 initiative has just declared 20,000 additional acres and $170 million in funding to promote and assist their sugarcane and rum industries. Another interesting fact is that Puerto Rican law monitors and controls each step of the production process, and also requires that rum be aged for a minimum of 1 year before blending, ensuring only the highest quality of rums are exported. Demand patterns for alcoholic beverages are slightly different than most products and present some interesting challenges. The consumption of alcohol revolves around the social time of consumers. On a weekly basis, most of the sales activities take place between Thursday and Sunday. On a more annualized basis, alcohol sales experience seasonality, with greater demand through the holiday seasons from November through January. This seasonal demand requires the ability to increase capacity within the production. Time flexibility from the workforce provides the consistent knowledge and the experience needed to maintain the process. Rum production is passed down through generations, so it's very important to keep a workforce that is able to keep the standards of the previous generations. So now that we've discussed some of the most interesting aspects of our supply chain of rum, my partner Cole Riggins will be taking some of the uncertainties involved in the supply chain, along with some of the recommendations of how we can improve it. Thanks for listening.